Rebecca, it's so good to see you. I love having you join us today on Coming Up Next to talk about how to be a good negotiator because I can't think of a situation where you wouldn't need those skills in life.
Oh my goodness, it's so true. I actually say that you even negotiate with yourself, with your own self-worth sometimes, you know? I mean, we're negotiating all day long.
I absolutely believe it. So we've known each other for a while. We met when we met on a podcast, I think, when I wrote my book talking about divorce, and you have a huge divorce practice, and we talked a lot about it. We talked a lot about relationships and people and divorces and how to go through it. And you've done kind of a pivot or an evolution, a shift into what you're doing now, and really kind of honed down in an area that seems to be super important to a lot of people at this current time. So, talk a little bit about where you came from and where you are today.
I mean, I've had a lot of different times in my life where I've had to shift and become something new. I mean, really it kind of started off when I got married at 19 the first time, and I had three kids by the time I was 22, and then I had to go back to college and then law school, and I got divorced, and so I felt like I kind of clawed my way out of that. And then my kids and I grew up together. And then I started practicing in the area of family law. And I did that for a long time. And I opened my own practice, and I had this goal of having the top family law practice in the area, which I achieved. And then once I got there, I was like, okay, what's next? I mean, I enjoyed the building of it, but I didn't really enjoy like what I call the gerbil wheel phase of it. And so I really realized that I'm actually an entrepreneur at heart. I actually, if I don't have meaning and purpose in my work, I don't feel empowered. And I need to feel like I'm making an impact. I need to feel like all of those things. And so I did the unthinkable, and I walked away from practicing on a daily basis. I merged my practice with two other guys, and I'm still a partner at the firm, and I still bring in cases, but I don't run cases on a day-to-day basis because a little over a year ago, I started doing YouTube on a serious basis. And I started talking about negotiating with narcissists. And, we're sitting here about a little over a year later, 14 months maybe, and I have 8 million views and 135,000 subscribers. So, um, yeah, and it's just kind of blown up. I have, close to 40,000 in a Facebook group, and I have a program called Slayer Negotiation with Narcissists, which I've sold to thousands of people at this point. And, um, I feel so much more like my work has meaning. I mean, I know that we get hundreds of emails and DMs and messages every day with messages on how my work has been impacting people. And so I'm grateful.
It's incredible, and I think the exciting part for me anyway is I've seen you on the journey, right? So I met you when you were doing the podcast on divorce. I remember standing there and us talking about what are you doing next, where are you going next, and you said, I'm going to take these courses. I think I want to look at a program. I remember having a very clear conversation, and you were just kind of trying to figure out what's next. And I don't know, what I'd like to do with this show is figure out where you find your bold in the middle of that, because you have that fear and you're trying to figure things out, and then somehow somebody gets to the other side, and here you are on the other side. So how did you get past that? Because there had to been those times where you went, I don't know if this is going to work, or is this what
Yeah.
people want?
No,
How did you
I
figure that
still
out?
have that. I mean, I'm always in that place, right? But um, I read a book by Elizabeth Gilbert one time, and in the book, she was talking about how whenever she does something new, she has a conversation with fear. And I thought it was so powerful, so I'll share it. She said every time she is starting something new, she says to fear, "Okay, fear, I'm going to do this new thing. I would like for you not to come. but I've come to realize that you're coming. So you can come along, but you have to sit in the back seat, and you definitely don't get to touch the radio, and you definitely can't steer. And I just thought that was really powerful. It's like, okay, you're gonna have that fear, but it doesn't have to control you.
Wow, that's good. And well, it certainly has not controlled you. And you have found a place, I think, that's resonated with so many people. And there's endless topics when it comes to this. And it really does affect every part of somebody's life. So, talk a little bit about those. I think you had a couple of videos in particular that really hit at the beginning. Is that right?
Yes, I mean, there's still a few that'll like take off. But the few that are like, I mean, it's sort of like the 80-20 principle with everything, right? I mean, the 80% is driving, or 20% is driving 80% of your, and so I kind of have the same thing with my YouTube. So I have one video called How to Make a Narcissist Panic that has close to 1 million views. And then I have another one on narcissist favorite sayings, which has, I don't know, 700 and something thousand at this point. So those are the top ones. And then, words that destroy a narcissist. There's several that also have several 100,000, but those are the top couple.
I mean, you were dealing with some high-profile divorces. I remember that. The top 1% of attorneys that are doing that in terms of narcissist negotiation. How did you realize that narcissist was a place that you needed to hone in on, and that was going to be so relevant? I mean, I don't know if you knew it was going to be relevant, but you knew it was an important place.
Yeah, I really thought that I was going to focus in on negotiation. So I had taken
Hmm.
courses on how to do information courses and digital courses. And I wrote a book called Negotiate Like You Matter. And I got Robert Shapiro to write the forward, and you actually, Tamsen, wrote a beautiful testimonial for me. And I really thought that I would just focus on that and start on YouTube about negotiation in general. But at the same time, I was dealing with a person in my life who was a narcissist who wasn't a romantic, it wasn't my husband, but it was somebody that I was working with in business, and also a family member. And somebody had suggested to me that these people were covert narcissists, and I didn't even I've never heard that term before. And so somebody suggested that I read this book, The Covert Passive Aggressive Narcissist. So I read this book, and it was at the same time that I was also thinking, let me do videos, that I want to create a course. So I read this book completely not thinking, oh, I'm going to join these things. It was more like, how do I get out of these relationships and unscathed? And I'm reading this book on the way to Florida for Christmas in 2019, and I'm like, oh my God, like out loud, I'm going, oh my God, this is what's happening. That's what these people are. And I started reading everything I could get my hands on. And that's when I realized, I could actually apply my skills in negotiating to what I'm learning about this personality type. So I started doing some videos on it, and that's how it all came together. So in a way, it's a really good lesson for how the worst things in your life can become the greatest gifts.
Yeah, I think we've seen an example of that over and over again with people who have found something and then they're able to share it with the rest of the world. And you're certainly doing that. And at a time that we're seeing people need that. We went into the pandemic. This is kind of along the time that you started, correct? The YouTube channel,
Yeah, in
speaking
March.
about this
Yeah.
around March. And then we're seeing the divorce rate go up. We're seeing the number of gray divorces go up. So I'm sure that people were needing this kind of information. And I almost feel like it sets them free in terms of being able to look inside and see what they really want.
Oh, totally. And I actually have I just launched in April the business version of my course, because they say 16% of the population is either narcissistic or has narcissistic traits or tendencies. So nobody is immune. We've all had to deal with difficult or toxic people. And yeah, I mean, we all are searching for a way to, get out of these relationships unscathed, or if it's in a business situation, be able to close more deals, be able to, you know, be able to negotiate and still feel in flow and not feel like you're being beat up in the process, and actually get the other person to be motivated to want to have a conversation with you.
And it's so important nowadays because we're looking at it from every angle. You're not only having relationships in person, you're having them on social media. You're dealing with people in every aspect of your life. It feels like 24/7, whether you're seeing them in person or not. So it's super, super important. I want to ask you a question with regard to putting on your divorce hat for a minute, because we're seeing that divorce rate go up with the pandemic, but we're also seeing gray divorces, which I found to be kind of interesting, because I don't know that we've seen that number move like we have. And then Bill and Melinda Gates, seeing that happen took a lot of people by surprise. What do you think about that? What do you think is making people maybe at an older age say, you know what, I'm not going to just say, okay, I'm staying in this relationship because maybe I have 20 more good years ahead of me, 30 more good years ahead of me, and this isn't where I belong?
I actually represented a guy who was 91 one time, and his wife was also 91. And he had a 91-year-old girlfriend. And they all lived in this senior living facility. And it was hilarious, actually, in some ways, because like the wife would actually stand in the breezeway and he would give his 91-year-old girlfriend rides in the golf cart. And the wife would stand in the breezeway and yell, "Slut!" And,
Oh no.
and they actually had to like do separate dining times. And it was like, oh my God. But he actually at the time was like, I don't care if I only have one more year left or 5 more years. I'm not living my life unhappy. I want happiness in my life. And it really made me realize, like, at any age, you're still a human being. You're still wanting to find joy. You still want to be able to live with the full expression of yourself and of your soul, whoever you are. And so I'm sure that that's what it is.
I agree with that. I think people, and I also think people are kind of finding their bold in different ways now. I think people are, getting out there and saying, "Look, this pandemic scared me to death. I don't know how long I have. Life is fragile. We never know what's coming. So I'm going to go forward with, maybe have fear, but still boldly go forward in life and do what it is that's going to make me happy."
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's partially also because there's less shame around being divorced as we go on. There's been a stigma for so long with being divorced, and I think some of that is starting to drop away a little bit. Millennials aren't even getting married, by the way. I mean, the whole divorce rate is changing partially because millennials are just not getting married. So what you're seeing is a huge surge in paternity actions because they're having children, but they're just opting out.
You're so brilliant to talk to. I could talk to you forever because you know so much about what is going on. But you're really right about that. I remember 2015 is when my book about divorce came out, called The New Single, and I didn't want divorce in the title. Like, I did not want the word divorce in the title because I was a little. It was still not talked about quite like it is now. Now it's something that you talk about and you learn from. And what you said earlier is correct, is some of the things that happen to you can be our greatest gifts. And it was certainly mine, in being able to talk to people like you, meet people like you, and realize that it's all okay, whatever problems you're going through.
Yeah, totally. And it creates space for incredible things to come into your life. Once you
Hmm.
clear that energy, I know for me, I've been married to my husband now for 21 years. You are engaged to be married. And I think, those things wouldn't have happened if you stayed in a relationship that wasn't serving you. And I always want to say it doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic relationship. It could be a business relationship. It could be a friendship, even if it's a family member, you know, I defend your light with your life.
There's no question about that. What's next for you? You're doing the videos, and I love that aspect of it. But you're also doing courses that people can learn from, and those have really been successful this year.
I do. I have Slayer negotiation with a narcissist, and SLAY stands for strategy, leverage, anticipate, and focus on you. And I have the business version, and I also have the divorce version if you're dealing with it in a family law matter of any kind. I'm actually creating a nonprofit for legal aid. My next course that's coming out in September is a certification course for lawyers, judges, and mediators. So that's and you know, I'm hoping to write another book, and you know, so there's lots of really cool stuff going on.
Well, lots of important things for you to be talking about as well. I know everyone is watching those YouTube videos. I had a friend of mine actually going through a divorce, and she said, "There's this woman, Rebecca Zung." And I said, "I know Rebecca." And she goes, "Oh my gosh, her videos got me through my divorce. It helped me move out of my house." And I said, "Really?" So, you've really made a lot of headway with people, and you're really helping people at a time when they need it most.
Thank you. Well, I mean, you know, I feel like hopefully I'm a conduit for the universe to share my skills with the world.